Yeah, not yet.
Not yet.
Come on. Oh, there you go. Tapping now on the snow. Something like that.
Perfect.
Bringing calling for it. Oh, it is that time.
Yeah, I can get it. That's fine.
We drove back from the city. Weekend ago. Yeah, everybody.
Top of 6th Avenue. Nice
So
stuff.
the area where-
That's big.
I haven't inspected everything. But they finally became more real.
Middle of winter.
Yeah.
I think it's like 8 hours.
Let me know when you're ready, and I'll start the recording.
No,
On 4th Street.
you don't want to be on the road. I drive.
Yeah, I think we're doing 35 miles an hour. No, just me.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm gonna hand it to you. That's my one time.
Putting up the construction. No, that's nice.
Okay.
Yes.
Recording in progress.
A lot of that.
All right, we're good on both sides there?
All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order. The City Council, Monday, November 18th, 2024. Roll call, please.
Darren Miller. Here. Tracy Snyder.
Here.
Jen Mazias.
Here.
Tom Limas.
Here.
Dave Anderson. Here. John Hopkins.
Here.
Jared Trembo.
Here?
All present. Quorum's met.
Thank you. Next is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm putting my mind to what that flag means to fall after that election. Okay. Next, we have approval of minutes for 3 different meetings. One is City Council, October 14th, also November 7th, and Board of Review on October 29th.
I'll make a motion to accept all 3.
Okay,
I'll second it.
motion by Tom, second by Tracy. Any questions, comments, or discussion on any of those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is approval of monthly expenditures.
I'll make a motion to approve monthly expenditures.
Second.
Motion by Tom, second by Darren, and that would be a roll call vote, please.
Jared Trembo.
Yes.
John Hopkins.
Yes.
Dave Anderson.
Yes.
Tom Limas.
Yes.
Jen Mazias.
Yes.
Tracy Snyder.
Yes.
Darren Miller. Yes.
Okay. That motion passes. Next item is public comment. If anyone is here tonight to give public comment, please step forward to the podium and write down your name and address. And is the microphone on? No. Okay, microphone should be on. Anyone here for public comment? It looks like not. Is there anyone online that you can tell, Tony?
There's someone online, but
Not for public comment
Not
necessarily.
saying anything.
Okay. Well, seeing none, we'll move on. The next item is mayoral announcements, proclamations, and appointments. The only announcement that I have is something that everyone probably knows by now, and that is hooray, the highway project is done. And I would like to thank all of our staff for all of their hard work, coordinating with the DOT, the contractors, our engineering firm, It was a long and arduous project, and it really looks good. And I know that there's more to come that's gonna make it, dress it up a little bit and make it even better. And that is exciting. It's really cool to see those silhouettes going up. It's something that's so unique, and they turned out really, really nicely. And that's, it's just really nice to have something that's unique for our community that will last for a long time. So those, I think, look really nice. So be sure to check those out. Thank you to all the businesses for their patience, and honestly, the suffering that they've had. They really have suffered with a lack of people stopping at their businesses this winter, or this season, this summer season, and the whole season. And again, I'd like to, I put a post on my mayoral Facebook page, and I'd like to repeat it here. Please, please make an effort to support our local businesses. They really need a little boost here now that they're back in with access, with easy access to the front of their businesses. And it's really critical to make sure that we support those businesses, because we want to keep them here and keep them sustained. So that's all I have for announcements. I don't have any proclamations this month, and I do have one appointment that you should all have a copy of the application there from Ryan Mulder for the Harbor Commission. I would really like to, even though it's kind of short notice, I would like to go ahead, if everyone has had a chance to read through that. I would like to see a motion to go ahead and approve that appointment if possible. He could start, I think, as soon as Wednesday, when the next meeting is, if possible.
I'll make a motion
I'll second that.
Okay, great.
appoint him.
So that's a motion by Tracy, second by Jared, to appoint Mr. Mulhern. Thanks to him for being willing to serve on that commission. And does anyone else have any questions or comments based on the application?
Can I not vote? Like sustain, whatever it is. I don't know. I've never had to deal with this before.
What was the question?
This is Jen's husband, so.
You would
apply to him.
make clear any potential conflict on the record and then abstain.
Okay. So I'm going to abstain because Ryan Mulhern is my husband.
There you go. That's all that's necessary.
Perfect. Okay, with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Me, yes.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. And thank you for your work on helping get that person. Okay. Next item is tab 1 in your packet, and this is an update with discussion and action on recommendations from the Mayfield Street Ad Hoc Committee. And Karen is with us tonight. Welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for your kind words. Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, in your packet you have a memo from our Beautification Ad Hoc Committee, and I'm going to start with an update, and I will handle the recommendation at the end. As the Mayor indicated, the silhouettes have been installed. There are more to be installed, and the remainder will be installed when the snowflakes for the holiday season are installed. And of course, the snowflakes are dependent on a power connection so that they can be lit, and I'm not sure when that power connection is going to occur.
This week,
Pardon?
this week.
This week. Okay, Jerry said December, but this week sounds even better. So the silhouettes are up. When they were in the process of putting them up, I will just note that there are 9 poles that are frankly in strange locations. They're for crosswalks, and until the lights come on, it's hard to see, but you will note that there are clusters of 3 light poles kind of in the same general vicinity. And that may be something we want to look at further down the road, but there are some that are facing Bayfield Street, and then at various intersections, there's another one. There are 9 of those that are in fairly strange locations in my estimation, but I can't tell, until the lights come on. The next thing I want to update you with is that the welcome sign, hopefully you've seen it, welcome sign coming into Washburn is up. The landscaping has been done. Those trees that have been planted will obviously grow and frame that sign, and we are really excited about how that sign looks. There's one more thing that needs to be done on the sign. We need to develop a new bar that will be used for the solar lighting, and that's still in progress. But we are working on that, and again, I think the welcome sign looks bright and fresh, and you can see it, and it's not about to fall over, so we're excited about that. Planters is another update. The provider has been selected, and our plan is to provide the council with a contract to review at our December meeting. And I won't go into more detail on that because I'll come back and look at it in December. So I think that's the update. The silhouettes, the holiday decorations, the welcome sign, landscaping, and planters. What remains? Well, the solar lighting on the welcome sign, getting the installation of the things that I've already talked about, and also then trash and recycle receptacles. That remains to be finalized, and it's anticipated that by January 2025, I will be able to bring a recommendation to you. We've been discussing that for a number of months and had a good discussion with an entity that might locally be able to do those receptacles for us. And if we can do it locally, of course, that's what we want to do. But I'm not at a position because we haven't finalized anything yet. But we're working on it, and we'll come back in January with some specific recommendations. Any questions on the updates? Jen?
I have one, and I appreciate all the work that you guys are doing. That was kind of my question with the benches is, sometimes when things just come and we review an action, we don't get to look at any options.
You're gonna see a picture.
Oh, we are gonna see a picture?
Yeah.
And so that was one of my questions about the receptacles, and then in the future for the planters, there's so many different kinds, and I know that your group is looking at them, and I guess just seeing different options, and then that locally part of it, because that's what's so cool about the metal pieces is they were done locally, and it's just a really unique thing. And I think benches, we have a lot of artists and stuff, so that was kind of my question when I looked up the bench on the internet. It's the bench that you see in a lot of places, right? And so that was kind of my question. Was there some discussion on local, doing fewer benches and locally made kind of different things to be a little bit different?
Well, let me get to the specifics of our recommendation, and maybe we'll be able to answer some of those concerns. The ad hoc committee researched a number of bench options, both commercially and locally. And the bench that we are recommending today is one that will be constructed commercially. The ones that we looked at locally, we didn't feel met our needs. And we felt that the one that I am going to be presenting to you, 10 built by Kirby Built. They are 6-foot benches. And Tony, if you could put that up on the screen so they can see one in color, that would be good. The estimated cost is about $9,400, about $900 per bench. They have a 50-year guarantee against breakage. So far, there are 4 organizations and/or individuals that have indicated an interest in purchasing. That would bring the cost down to about $5,800. I'm anticipating that there may be 1 or 2 additional individuals or organizations that might be interested in purchasing benches. They come with a 50-year guarantee against breakage. It actually is constructed in Wisconsin, and it is a commercial grade recycled plastic slats. It's a black power coated cast aluminum frame. Has been used by a number of municipalities. It's 6 foot. I have to tell you that their customer service has been wonderful, and that is our recommendation. And to your question, Jen, in terms of options, frankly, I guess I believe that that's what the ad hoc committee was about, because we looked at multiple options, and the council is busy. If I brought you 4 or 5 options, I think that you might find yourself bogged down, as we frequently did in our meetings, with looking at lots of different options. And, I certainly can prepare for you or present to you the things that we looked at, but I believe, and I may be overstepping the bounds or the charter of the ad hoc committee, but it was my understanding that we were to bring a recommendation.
Okay, no, I haven't seen the charter and,
Well, there is no charter, but
well, I mean, so that's just,
when Mary said, do you want to be on this committee, I thought our job was to bring you a recommendation.
and I guess I've never seen the parameters, so that's why, like, sometimes I guess I expect to have more of like, oh, here's our options, this one has this price point, these 3, I mean, that's kind of what, and that's all, I'm just asking for clarification. I think the bench looks great, but kind of like the same thing, like the city sign, I mean, I think all the options are great, I'm just saying I'm used to seeing a little bit different, that's all. I guess, Mary, you're the, I don't know.
Well, and honestly, I'm not sure what an ad hoc committee is charged with, or who even decides who charges them with the things. We talked about having an ad hoc committee, and I had some notes here to actually talk about clarifying maybe some of those things in terms of, when is phase 1 complete? Are we taking a break with the ad hoc committee before phase 2, then once all of these things are done for phase 1, or are we going to continue with the phase 2 planning? So I did have some of those questions that I wanted to bring up tonight, as well as clarifying what is the process and how does reporting happen, and just clarifying some of those things. And I don't know if we have anything in writing from when we decided we were going to put an ad hoc committee together. Is that anything you have any insight in?
Yeah, I can just generally say that any committee's authority is whatever the council designates it to be. Typically, committees don't have any actual decision-making authority in and of themselves, they're recommendation authority, which is what the ad hoc committee is doing here.
Right.
As far as other requirements, the council can put any other requirements that it would like in the motion that approved it. I don't know right now off the top of my head what was required in this approval of that committee.
Yeah.
My memory is what's been
Right,
being
I mean,
presented
and
here.
don't get me wrong, I
Yes.
appreciate everything, I think the bench looks great, but I was just kind of like wondering, because like when it says it comes to council for review, it's like, at that point, it's often too late to be like, oh, what else? Can we see what else you looked at if we didn't like something? So that's all.
And I would say that the council's authority is final on whether to approve or reject, and if you want more options, it's to tell the ad hoc committee to bring back more options, is what's
And we, if that's what you would like, we could do that. But this is what I have to provide you this evening. And as I said, we researched it a lot. We had meetings locally. Frankly, this was the bench that the committee came up with.
Great, thank you.
Tracy, go ahead. And I just wanted to make a comment on the silhouettes. We followed the same process. I worked with Matt Tetzner. We put those designs together. We brought them to the council, and you approved them, and that was that. It was like with the sign as well. So we're following that same process.
Sure, I guess, I think what maybe Jen is saying and that I'm feeling is that we never really agreed on what the process was. We just kind of were going with it. And we were very grateful that you were willing to step up and take on the work of sifting through the
A lot of
ideas and the concepts and all of that. But I think you and I both are probably used to a more in-depth process through our jobs where we have a little more say on choices in the matter.
Right, when it says like we've decided on a contractor, I'm like, oh, okay. You know, those are just, and I am just used to, like, even when the silhouettes were bought, I'm like, those are great. But again, I'm not saying that I don't love the silhouettes of the bench. I'm just saying I'm used to seeing a little bit more process with something like this that's gonna be in our downtown for the next, well, I don't know, really a long time.
Yeah, this council, you know, as we vote for things, we're taking that on, and so it would be nice to really be solid in our decisions.
Right, like there's a million different planters, and I don't, you know, the sizes and community input and artistry, and that's all the stuff that I think about, like, and I know that's what you guys are talking about, and, you know, but when it comes to here, we just have to, when it's like a choice, it's just like, it's yay or nay. And that to me sometimes puts us in a situation like, it's really hard to say nay. Because I don't have any other things to be like, oh, well, I like that, but, you know, what about something cool with blah, 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 you know?
Well, and going forward, if the council wants to look at a number of options, we can certainly do that. I will just tell you, knowing that how long it has taken us to make final decisions on some of these decisions to bring a recommendation. I mean, it is not our place to make a decision. So that it is a decision to present a recommendation.
I'm with you. I'm not saying we need to change it. I'm just bringing up why I'm asking
That
questions.
certainly is an option, but.
Go ahead, John.
Is there any anticipation that local artists will be painting the benches, or are they going to be left kind of in this state? or-
Not the benches, but we are looking at some options with the planters. And while the memo says a provider has been selected, it goes on to indicate that a contract will be presented to you for your review, hopefully at the December meeting. And so that's the contract for that provider. If you decide you don't want that provider, we can go back and look at other options for that. But back to your question, John, we're thinking about perhaps on the trash and recycle receptacles that we would look at for some local art, not on the benches, no, but we're not nowhere near making recommendations on that because, as I said, we're working locally with an organization and we haven't even had any specs back from them yet. So that won't be until January. And Mira, just to your comment about going forward, we still have work to do. I mean, we have the receptacles to do, and I think the committee believed that we would continue looking ahead to the second phase. There are some other things that we've been talking about in terms of the way signs and how they will be erected once they go up again. Some were damaged and need to be replaced. And so we thought that we would take a look at that also. So there's still more work to be done. And just finally, Tracy made mention of Matt Pepsner, and I must also say, we have been very, very fortunate that we have his skill and talent to work with us, because the work that he did at the welcome sign, the work that he's done on the silhouettes, and of course, unbeknownst to me, because I ordered them, the brackets for the snowflakes don't fit our light poles. And Matt just stepped right up and said, I can fabricate something so that you can put your snowflakes up. He just has been a delight to work with. So kudos to Matt.
Thank you. Dave, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just, due to our, delayed time frame with the second phase of this, is there any threat that the Hampton 6-foot benches will no longer be available in 2027?
Highly unlikely.
Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah,
it's probably.
but the
first
10, I think Tracy helped me with that. Were the 10 for both phases?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're,
yeah.
we're doing it all
For
for
both
both phases, so that that kind of situation does not
Yeah,
occur.
we're thinking ahead.
Yeah,
All right.
no, that's,
Yeah, good question. I should
like the
have clarified
planters,
that.
you'll have the planters down that way too.
Yeah.
Even though it hasn't been done.
Right. We're thinking ahead to the
Phase one,
second
phase
phase. Other questions?
Let's see, anything else? Are we looking at discussion and action on the bench tonight then?
Correct. That was our recommendation.
Does anyone have any other questions on the bench?
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second.
Okay. Excuse me. Motion by Jared, second by Tom. Any other questions or comments, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Please share that with the rest of the ad hoc committee.
Thank you.
It's very exciting. This is, I don't even know how to feel with a fancy, brand new downtown for part of the downtown anyway. You can really tell the difference when you keep going then, right, on the old road. Okay. Next item is discussion and referral of request to vacate the unopened South Fifth Avenue West, south of Wisconsin Street. Terry Dolan petitioner. And that is tab 2 of your packet. And per Tammy's memo, it sounds like we just want to get a feel for how people think about this. And if everyone is feeling like this is not something we want to even consider, we should say that now so that we don't spend time and effort and money on the process, everyone moving forward. So hopefully everyone has had a chance to review the map and the memo to see the parcel that we're talking about. I forgot I was going to look up what this piece was here next to it. Is that a private?
No, city.
I'm pretty sure it's city,
It's
but
city.
it's currently loading.
Oh, it's loaded, okay, you have it on your computer.
It's city land.
Is it, okay?
Yeah.
Is there a chance ever that we would use that road for any reason? So we have right now 4th and 6th connect up to avenues. And we have culverts on her property?
That's where those large, that's where the big culvert.
No, I mean, did you walk it?
No, I did not walk it.
So, like, most of the property, and I think, is she here? Hi. I'll probably have some questions for you.
Sure.
So yeah, the majority of the property, like the middle, big chunk, is like, it's part of the ravine system. I mean, it's like, we have a lot of that down there where we have all of a sudden a big ravine. And so there are 2 culverts that you can't really see unless you like walk the ATV trail and kind of look down. So there's 2 culverts, and I'm not sure when those were put in, but I think like kind of no matter what, that chunk of land would have been very hard to like fill in and do anything with because it's kind of part of the drainage ugliness, what we have down there. We got a lot of that, right? That really big culvert is just down from there on city land. Is Jerry here? Yes, Jerry. So, yeah, I mean, so I think no matter what, you need to have something there to like flow that water. And I think
You just talk right into it.
oh, and it is, and I think it's, so Jerry, is that like the city installed those years ago? With like a handshake agreement with whoever owned it? And your dad owned it? Okay. Okay. Yeah. So.
And I would say that this would have no impact on those. The city would have that right away ability to keep that
Okay,
drainage easements in place, whatever agreement was there. This vacation keeps any agreement or any utility easement in place.
well, my question is there a drainage easement in place? There's not.
So this, I guess, for those, and we can discuss specifics about that, but this shouldn't have any impact. Vacating the alleyway shouldn't have any impact on the use of the drainage easements or anything else.
So to get back to the fact of, I guess, use of the land, I mean, it is an upland piece of land that connects down to the snowmobile trail, that connects down to the next section of property that is owned. The snowmobile trail between the road is all city land. So would we use it in the future? I think everyone on council knows my opinion of vacating land is not my favorite thing to do in the world. Just because I know the value of property, like in the future, I'm just like one of those far-fetched urban planners, right? So when we look at these kind of things, I'm very skeptical of them. In terms of like, it's hard for us to know what our city is gonna look like in the future. It's hard for us to know what we're gonna do with that piece between the ATV trail. There's been a lot of discussion about that piece of land. At one point, when we were developing the yurt, somebody said, well, can't we put like a couple little cabins there? Like, there's all sorts of different things to think about. I'm not saying yes or no, I'm just saying like, you know, it is something to really think of. It is a high piece of ground that does connect. And really, the property owner unfortunately can't really use much of the middle, but can use the piece closest to the other property line. So basically on both edges, right, of the property is like, maybe you can talk to that, Jared can talk to that. Like both pieces of the edge is basically the most useful piece of the property in terms of building. It's beautiful. And I like the little gully, but it probably doesn't do very good if you want to build houses.
So I'll give you me and Scott actually, we went down and walked that, kind of took a look at the whole thing down there. And so when we brought this up, we started talking about it. We realized, we looked at the drainage ditch there, the culverts in, and that was all done on a handshake. She's looking to build a piece of property. She can't get it on the other side. We're kind of interfering, you know, even though it's a gentleman's handshake, that doesn't work. So.
Can I just ask a question? Why not on the other side?
There's just not enough room. I mean, by the time you try to squeeze it in there with the downslope and everything, you'd have to try to take all those trees down and fill it in. We just don't, it's just, with the offsets, there's just not enough room.
The piece of property goes all the way over into the
It
yard.
does, but that drainage ditch is sitting like right in the middle. There's not even enough room. How we kind of came up with this is by vacating this, we actually laid this out with like a house on it to see how it would fit in there. And there was really no comfortable way of getting it to fit on there. And not only that, where this street is vacated through, on the other side, that's the drainage ditch where it spills out, goes into Lake Superior. So that's actually diagonally across there. So if you're on that walking trail, which that is actually.
Can we bring up the map
Sure.
so like you can actually point?
Yeah.
Sorry, Tony, making you work over here.
You know, with that said, we kind of talked about this, that if they were going to do this, this would be the time to get these utility agreements in place.
Oh, yeah.
When this is all being transversed over.
Oh, you can't just bring up the packet? Sorry.
Oh, you want that?
Yeah, I was just a map in the packet, so we can kind of like what he's describing, we can kind of talk about because. Or you can bring it up there, I don't care what you bring it up.
It's quicker. That one?
Yeah, so if you could like. Thank you. Okay. Okay, now close, there you go.
Yeah, so you really can't see it in, real good on there, but if you take a look on the left-hand side where they got that little box drawn, so that drainage ditch is actually to the left of that, and it goes underneath the walking trail at an angle, and it actually spills out right into that road right away on the other side.
Yeah, like, yeah.
And it goes underneath and it keeps going, so,
It
and that's
comes out
where,
an
that's where
angle
it spills
where the
out
big
right there.
culvert is that you were talking about, Darren, like that. big-
Correct.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if it was diagonal or ran straight.
Yeah,
up.
No, it's diagonal.
Yeah, it's diagonal across there.
Okay.
So that dumps
Yes.
into that road, kind of that road right away on the other side, which is all a deep crevasse that drains everything down in the Lake Superior.
Correct. So my point is where the 126 foot is, so if you were to draw, like from here down, like that chunk is buildable. And then if you take halfway through, because that piece when you vacate the alley,
So,
that's a double. Normally that half would go to the city and the other half would go to the property owner. Like that's a double vacate.
yeah, so you could try to squeeze it in there, but with the style of house that she's proposing to build, she's getting almost twice the area buildable space. It looks bigger on there than it really is. I mean, when it gets to that woods, it starts dropping off. And,
Right, but once it gets past that big conifer to
Yep.
where you're putting over there,
yeah.
there's not much space on that side,
Yeah, where he's pointing right now,
right there.
right there, there isn't much, you think there's a lot of room there, but there isn't.
Right, there's not much room there, but then on the other side where the conifer is,
Yep, see, she was talking
there's
about
not much
building,
space over there either.
there's more there than there is on the other side, so we were looking at it. She was trying to squeeze it in on that side, but it's a little tight. By adding on to this, with the offsets, it gives her more room, honestly, on that side of the road than on that side of it than on the other side, with the least amount of impact.
The least amount of impact?
Well, I mean, that she has to do for Phil, so, I mean, if she puts it on the other side, trying to get it in the setbacks and everything, there's a chunk of trees that's gonna have to come out of there, which is then we're gonna have to fill in. She'd have to fill in to try to get her house in there. So it's kind of limiting the size of the house versus the other side's giving her, I believe the other side went with vacating that, I believe it gives her just a little over 105 feet of, buildable width up on top.
Could I add something? Just for history?
Yeah,
If you could come on up and talk into the mic.
Sure.
Thanks.
The Wisconsin Street, I'm Terry Dolan, by the way. Wisconsin Street, part of the street is also an easement that my dad gave to the city to connect Wisconsin Street to
Fifth, South Fifth, yeah.
I'm an out of towner, so sorry. So I just wanted to give that history that the lot, I think Jerry, you made that connection for me when I met with you, that the Block 19 line goes right through Wisconsin Street. So that was part of the original property. So I just wanted to add that. And the city put in the curb, and it's, never been used for a road, never been maintained as a road, and that's why I'm asking.
So, and with,
That would be this section right here.
correct, yeah, and with this, we'll have to clean some of that up. I mean, city built a road on private property, and at that point, why that wasn't
And
addressed.
there isn't, I guess
There's a granted right-of-way agreement, yes, that gives the city the authority to keep that road there.
Mhm.
So this wouldn't have any impact on the existing road, just so everyone's clear there.
Right, I just wanted to give you a history, knowing that's why that road was created. This at the time, and I know things change, but at the time, the city didn't believe that it would need to go through for any reason, and asked permission to use part of my dad's land to connect that road.
And you're looking to build a house for yourself?
Yes.
I want to show you this real quick so you can kind of understand.
You're coming to me.
So you see what she's asking for is this right here. But see, this is buildable all the way to here. So that's why this area here, take a look at the size. You come over here, this is all she's got. When you look at it in color, because that drainage ditch is right here.
Right, but it's free. I mean, it's,
Can you use my mouse?
Yeah.
it doesn't, it's fine.
What's
It's
it?
fine.
Can you use my mouse and point that out to everyone?
Well, I'm saying that here, the green on here shows up a lot better and how that's laid out. Because if you take a look on the right-hand side there where that box is, where you see all that going to the trees, that's all flat going the whole way.
Right here.
Yes, so that's all green space going all the way back to, if you take a look from right where that arrow is, all the way back to where she's asking, that's all buildable. On the other side, it literally drops off where the trees start right there. That drainage ditch is like, I mean, you can hardly walk down it, it's so steep, so.
Right,
That's why that is such a small area.
Just a quick question for you. You said that was, you're planning on building a home for yourself?
Yes.
Hopefully, fingers crossed, is it a full-time or not a short-term rental?
No, it would be personal use, yes.
I wonder if that's something that we could, write into an agreement is that you agree not to have it be a short-term rental for a period of time as part of the deal, if council is open to the vacate. I don't know.
I don't know what is behind that, so is there?
We're just hoping to preserve housing for people who actually want to live here, and instead of people building a house and then paying for it by renting it out to people who don't live in the community. And then we have people who want to move to the community who have nowhere to live because as more and more short-term rentals come to town, that becomes a
And
Well,
I guess,
that property has been part of my family for over 70 years, so the property is staying in the family, so, you know.
well, a legal answer to that question, the standard for vacating an unopened alleyway is if the public interest requires it. So council can find what conditions, really you can find what conditions are in the public interest that would require vacating an alleyway. So one of those conditions were not to have it as a short-term rental. My opinion is that that could be added on the condition of the vacating. It couldn't control the total use of the property indefinitely, but as we may be able to craft a way to do that specifically related to this vacated alleyway portion or anything that comes kind of.
So with, and maybe you don't know the answer to this yet, but with that stipulation, is that something that the council can decide and then I don't have to go, work the streets tomorrow and get signatures for a half a mile?
No, I think
You'd still need to, you would still need to get the petition in, all the same conditions of submitting the petition would still be required.
Okay.
This is
Just
just,
before council.
this is just a general consensus feeling, like, if everyone is gonna eventually vote no on this, there's no point in doing what
Right.
you're saying.
Yeah.
But if council is open to the idea of vacating, then you still have to go through the process.
Okay.
And I guess I just want to know, like, this is not anything against you. Like, these discussions are just, from my perspective, I like to look at these things because I feel like, particularly water, I mean, this is a beautiful piece of property that you have, and it's water view. And so I look at the public interest in the future of like that connectivity and using that piece of land for something else before we just vacate it away. And to me, you have other options. They might not be as great, but you do have another option for building. And I hear Jerry, I thank you, Jerry, for the clarification that there's a little bit more buildable property. And typically when we vacate a property, it would go like down the middle and one piece would go towards the other landowner. So you're like, actually, we're vacating even a larger piece of like the entire thing. Normally we split it between, I mean, we do this sometimes.
And do you see in the future an advantage of using that versus the paved Wisconsin Street that's already there? I mean, what would that connect to that you couldn't get to with existing roads?
Who knows? You know, she's talking, I think, if I could just jump in, we have no idea what the future looks like. We have no idea what access we might need for what reason, we don't know. You know, these are decisions that affect forever the city. And so that's, I think.
That's just what we look at. And that's why I like to have a robust dialogue about it, where everybody looks at the property and looks at the possibilities. Because we didn't think it was bad to put an industrial park next to our baseball field either. You know, where it would have been really nice to keep
Again, I
that.
don't know that it's
You know, like there's
Right.
all like things like that. So the only thing I can see for the connectivity in the future is if we were getting, if there was something to be built in the stretch between the snowmobile trail and the road, which is kind of highly unlikely because like Jerry said, most of it, some of it's very buildable and then some of it is drainage and we can come in from the other side. So from a utility standpoint, that's what I always ask Scott, is there some kind of utility that would run down there that would make sense to cut through versus going around? And again, I'm hearing from Jerry that you looked at the utilities and there's really no reason to have that as a utility go through.
Not unless you're gonna develop campgrounds.
Now, see that?
I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
You're really funny.
I'm kidding.
You're really funny. But it is true because we want to maybe develop it, like we wanted to put yurts like right through there. But we have other places, right, Jerry? If we were to put something there, we have other ways to do utilities there.
Yes.
Thank you.
We're gonna include that in, we'll move forward that they know all the utilities are down there, so we've got an understanding of that too.
Well, and seeing that, the city owns on the other side of the snowmobile trail there.
Right, we own all around.
Yeah, I guess personally, I'm not feeling that bad about losing that, especially since we don't really have anything in writing for the culverts that we have on that property. So that's all I'm meaning. Anyone else have questions or Darren?
Yeah, I guess I'm not opposed to it, so I would think we would send it forth. But my one question is, and again, you can't see it on here, does that culvert, Jerry, would that culvert interfere on her building site?
No.
What she's thinking about?
No.
And with that large culvert coming out on that other piece there, that alley, I can't see the city ever filling that in because that's an open water discharge. So I myself think that, I mean, if we're ready for a motion, I would make the motion to send it forth to the planning commission.
There's no motion tonight. This is just a discussion item to get
Oh,
kind
yes.
of
Oh,
an
okay.
understanding of where
No,
they're looking to go.
It says action,
I think it is.
but the action committee is just to refer it on to through the process.
We don't have a finalized petition with all the neighbors' signatures yet. Isn't that what
No,
you just said?
that happens,
She doesn't need the
that happens
signatures.
with the next
no.
process.
Yes,
Yeah,
okay,
just to send it on
Yeah.
through the process.
okay.
So
Are we gonna make a motion?
would that be your motion to just
That
send
was
it
my
on through the
motion.
process?
I will second it.
Okay, is there any further discussion, questions?
Is that gonna be the stipulation about the STR?
We don't make any conditions
She needs
right
to,
now.
yeah, it's just an idea.
No, thank you for answering
That's
my
it.
questions.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, all in favor of sending this on through the normal process, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, you have to go pound the pavement.
Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you for answering our questions. Okay. The next item is discussion and action on temporary exception of vacation forfeiture policy for administrative staff. This is tab 3 of your packets. Obviously, with all that has been happening the past 6 months plus, staff has been busy and more busy than usual, haven't been able to take vacation. So therefore, this is in front of you tonight.
I'll make a motion to temporary waive the forfeiture.
Second.
Motion by Jared, second by Jen. Any questions, comments, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
really.
Don't forget to prioritize yourself, everybody. Take your vacation. You will survive. Public hearing is the next item. Discussion and action on 2023 municipal tax levy payable in 2024. If I could ask Scott to come forward, Mr. Rasmussen has been our interim administrator for budget purposes these past few months and has done an amazing job helping us through, and he is here to walk us through the last stages here before we officially vote on the budget in December. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Scott.
Thank you. Kind of odd discussion, or odd part of the discussion here. Clearly, there's a typo on, clearly we're looking at the 24 levy, 25 budget. And that's what was published by, I'm not going to.
It was published correctly?
Oh, correct, yes.
Okay, good.
And I believe that is on, that's basically the third page of the memo that I wrote, and then the rest of the package of staff put together. So it's clearly correct on there. And I also noted that it's clearly the adoption of the 2024 tax levy. So as I talk through this, we're going to be, just so we get the dates right, or the years right, we're talking about the 2024 tax levy that would be tacked onto the tax bills coming up. But this is for the 2025 budget. So that's, I guess we'll start there. I did pass out, everyone should have a copy of page of the tax levy summary. This is a page that we talked at length at the finance committee, and I think it's helpful for kind of looking some of the differences, some things we're going to talk about tonight, especially as we get related to the TIF district. And so starting with that, I just wanted to take a short kind of summary of starting with the general fund. As per the package that was presented to you, total expenditures next year of about $3.13 million, an increase of $132,000. Yeah, fairly significant, a 4.39% increase. Corresponding levy then of $776,184 versus $692 last year is also a significant increase. Fortunately, between the net new construction the city had this year, then also an adjustment by the Department of Revenue for the closure of TIF 2, you were allowed over a 6%, almost 7% increase. So again, that allowed the increases in the general fund, which are almost exclusively personnel related, salaries, health insurance. And I'm sorry, one of the things I should have started with, most of you have seen me, via Zoom. And so from that standpoint, it's good to see you all in person. So again, very good news for the general fund. So again, you folks can keep up with paying your staff what they deserve and keeping you in the ballpark, both on the salary and benefits level. Just a couple of the pieces related specifically to the general fund, and a couple of these have just come up even just recently. The committee talked a lot about the use of fund balance. When I first started here, I noticed that basically your former administrator was basically plugging your budget hole every year with use of fund balance, your savings, basically over the years. It concerned me a little bit. It kept going up every year. As I explained to the finance committee though, and looking forward through it a little bit more, you weren't needing it. So it wasn't negatively impacting your fund balance. And basically again, what the fund balance is primarily used for any sort of emergencies that you have in the future. But even more specifically, especially in you probably saw some of this at your debt issuance earlier this year, and what you're going to be seeing here coming up on the next phase of the major road project. The people that buy your bonds look at your fund balance because that's your safety net. If something goes wrong, a major employer leaves town, you still have the ability to make your debt payments, and that means a lot to them. And so that results, frankly, in more interest in your debt and lower rates. So you don't want that to get too far. And the general, and most auditors will say is you want to keep about a 20% balance of your existing general fund. And even at the end of the year with about $280,000 that you're looking at using, you'd still be at, what did I write down there?
22,
Yeah, I'm sorry?
22%?
Maybe a little higher than that, actually. I'm sorry, I just lost it here. Yeah, you'd be at about 35%.
35%?
Yeah, so if you look at what was published in the paper, and that's to the packet, and again, that's the third page of the packet, that's the memo that I wrote, that has all of the funds. If you go down almost to the very end, so the general fund balance of December 31st of 2023, that's an audited figure, is 1.645 million. Everyone see that? Yep. With how things are projected for ending in 2024, I'm thinking you're going to end the year in the neighborhood of 1.4 million. And then looking at what you're applying, or what the recommendation of applying the fund balance next year, you're looking at the end of next year, end of 2025, looking at about 1.129 million. And that's about 33% of your total general fund budget. And so that's a positive.
And we may not go down
Exactly,
that.
and clearly, like I said, in past years, you haven't been using that. At some point, it's probably going to catch up to you that you are going to have to use it. But again, that's projection, and which still leaves you in very good shape.
If I could make one comment on that, just from
Yep.
my experience on this, is that I think annually, we've been making the comment that we've been trying to build up the general fund in anticipation for the Bayfield Street project.
Sure.
That with that anticipation that we weren't using it, the expectation that we might need to tap into some during these big projects. Is all.
Fair point. Just a couple of, okay, so another piece is on general fund, just kind of things, a couple things that have popped up. I had a question just this morning, Tracy, and it was a good one. Clearly, you're going to be talking later in the meeting about a new administrator. There's a salary adjustment that was higher than what was initially budgeted. Fortunately, and again, I always tread lightly when we're talking about the health insurance things. That gets a little personal. But the understanding is that the health insurance is going to be significantly less than what we had budgeted. So at the end of it, it's actually going to be a $4,200 savings in the general fund. So again, that's good too, moving on towards your negotiations. My recommendation at this point would just leave that where it is. Keep your levy amount for the general fund where it is, because that's your new base for your moving forward for net new construction and things like that. And we know everyone's at, a lot of communities are strapped by the fact that that's all you're allowed to raise your operating levy. And one final item that came up during our discussions, I was talking about this community beautification fund. So your room tax, we budgeted $98,000, 90% of that goes to the chamber, 5% stays with the city for administration, and 5% for community beautification. As the finance committee remembers, we were talking a lot about that. We couldn't find it in previous year's budget. So in this year on page 13 of the general fund budget, there's an actual community beautification line that's slated to be budgeted at $10,000, and that's included in here. And moving forward, that should be easy enough to find.
It was hard.
It was clearly, yeah, because Tony and I looked back at some things that we just couldn't find anything in previous years. And so that's kind of a summary of the general fund. And feel free to jump in at any time with questions. I want to spend some time talking about debt service levy then, because there was a change in that over what the finance committee recommended. It changed for the good, actually. So basically, total expenditures increased to about $36,000. It's $121,000 increase over last year, primarily due to the borrowing in 2024. Now, fortunately, there's some shared fire truck payments from 3 townships that offset that. That's a positive. And then I discovered after we had a meeting 2 weeks ago, Tony, with the Joint Review Board for the TIF District. Sean Lenz with Ehlers, you're the city's financial advisor that helped with your borrowing this summer. He was looking at my numbers and got a hold of me and said, the levies, we're off quite a bit in our levy. And so he sent me the paperwork from the borrowing. And what I discovered, was completely, just very, very easy to see once you had that document, was the firm or the bank, and I forget what the name of it is, who bought your bonds this summer, actually paid a premium for them, about $55,000 higher than what you were asking. Again, typically that's a good thing. And he asked for an explanation, if that bank had customers that were looking for what they considered, a good, stable city, they were willing to pay more. Not unlike in the real estate market, right? Someone's asking this much for a house. There are people that, especially recently, have been willing to pay more for that property, and that's exactly what happened here. Now, the positive, or what then if that happens, and it has, that premium needs to be used to pay for debt service. You can't just take it and, well, we're gonna give staff salaries with that $55,000. You can't use it for that legally. So what Sean and Ehlers had that I didn't realize until just a couple weeks ago is they had that built into next year's budget to offset the tax levy. And frankly, the tax levy was a fair amount higher because the interest rates on that were higher. You borrowed in June, you're not making payments till 2025. There's almost a year lapse until you make that first payment. So to keep things a little more stable on the debt service levy side, Sean and Ehlers proposed basically using that premium to do that for next year. And so if I do that, basically the levy that even was published in the paper reduced by almost $50,000. So as you can see on the handout there, that's another positive. So then your tax rate is going to go down even more. The capital project piece, as we talked through, we kept the levy exactly the same as last year. And so one final piece on debt service, just so you're aware, debt service is exempt from the levy limits. So when you borrow in the future for more pieces, clearly your levy is going to go up, but it's exempt from the state limits that are currently on. So that's a positive piece, and just as a reminder. So then back to the capital projects and the sheet highlighting them was in your packet, but that levy was exactly the same as last year. That is not exempt from the debts from the levy limits. So again, we had to keep an eye on that, knowing that the general fund levy was going up a fair amount. So basically, at the end of the day, back to that sheet, I'll jump to the TIF discussion as well. So if you look at the preliminary levy with the adjustment for debt service, you're looking at a total general levy proposed for 2024 for 2025 of 1.383894. Last year's general levy was 1.296. So that's a 6.7% increase. However, the positive is twofold. Well, here's the positive piece is that your TIF number 2 ended. So basically last year, the levy for TIF 2 that was spread across, obviously the city, the school district, your technical college, and the county was $122,000. Now, if the TIF has ended, it worked exactly the way it was supposed to work. That comes off the levy, and now they're on the general, paying general levies, all of the increased valuation and increment. So again, as you know, if there's a 0 there in TIF 2, that's a positive. There's also a 0 under TIF 3. That isn't so much of a positive. What I discovered when I got here, looking at the equalized reports that the state puts out in August, I didn't look at them until well in September. For whatever, again, when I first looked, it was your increment that you was $4.5 million for TID 3 was down to 0. There was no valuation. I talked to your former administrator. I talked to your assessors. They were as confused as I was. Discussing with the mayor, I got a hold of some folks at the Department of Revenue, the Office of Equalization in our district, which is in Eau Claire. It was discovered that there was some confusion. There was overlapping properties in both TIFs. When TID 2 went out, fair to say the assessor was a little confused as to what was in TIF 3. The DOR was confused as to what was submitted. So basically, and how these reports work, they come out basically about the 1st of August. The municipality has essentially a week to look at them and if there's any errors, to take them up. Unfortunately, that was exactly the time that your former administrator was leaving, and so it didn't get reviewed. By the time I got to it, it was way too late. So basically, you're not going to get any increment from TIF 3 this year. Last year, as you noted down at the bottom of that handout, you got almost $80,000. The positive of all this is the Department of Revenue is going to allow you to add that to next year's levy. So not only next year's TIP levy, but you'll also get a one-time shot for this year's. So the city's going to come up fine. That's the real positive. It's just going to be, you're going to wait a year, and the other, a little bit of a negative is you're going to double up. So it'll be probably close to $160,000 next year, which is going to boost all of the other, everyone's levy for 1 year, then it's going to go back down. So yeah, and frankly, I think that's a very favorable outcome. The DNR clearly recognized, DOR, Department of Revenue, clearly realized it was a mistake. And especially even with your administrator leaving, they understood completely that it just didn't get caught in time. So at the end of that, that's going to work out well enough. Some of the rest of the budgets that are, so at the end of the day, your TID 3 budget, which we really didn't talk too much about because we were waiting in the committee level because we were waiting to hear this. There's just a couple of expenditures. The main expenditure is a $10,000 payment that you folks agreed to for the Ironworks sewer reimbursement. That is still going to come out of TIP. So the total budget is $13,500. Not a big deal. You'll make that up when you get the TIP increment in future years. Harbor budget was pretty standard. It's a major reduction due to the capital costs that they didn't need for next year. And the utilities, which again do not affect your levy at all, but just a final note on that. So you had a water rate increase that the PSC, Public Service Commission, approved. We now have a full year. There is sewer rates that increased in the middle of the year and stormwater as well. So there's no increase proposed in the budget for rates for next year because the new rates that we approved this year are going to take a full year in effect, and that should be enough to cover also the staff costs, which were significant, and also a portion of the new debt that were allocated to water, sewer, and stormwater. So ultimately with that, as proposed, you're looking at, well, so that's the summary of the budget. I guess we do have a specific item later talking about approving the levy for next year. I went through that pretty quickly. Any discussions or any questions? I guess my final point would be, and I had catch the committee earlier that I did thank the finance committee for all their work, the mayor as well, and frankly, I can't, the staff that helped, Tony, Tammy, Jerry, and the other department heads as well, have been a real pleasure to work with.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. This process was a lot smoother than it could have been, given all the circumstances that we've had. So thank you for your diligence and hard work. And really getting into the details so that we can figure stuff out that will help us as we move forward. So I guess with that, we need to go into a public hearing. So we would need a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Dave, second by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there anyone here from the public who would like to address the budget? With questions? Any questions from the public on the budget hearing? Seeing none, I would look for a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close.
All right, I've got Dave and Tom. Okay, so it's motion by Tom, second by Dave. To close the public hearing, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then we're looking for action on both resolution 24-016, adopting the 2024 tax levy, and the action on resolution 24-017, the county library levy exemption. Either one at a time or together.
I'll make a motion to approve both.
I'll second.
Does it matter?
It doesn't matter, but just to confirm that the motion to approve 2416 is to correct the date in the levy. Being the 2024 municipal tax levy.
Right. It does say 25 on the resolution.
Yes.
So with 20 signs.
With the
Just to
amended
clarify
title
the
of the
difference.
resolution.
So the 2024 tax levy and the county library levy exemption. So motion was by Jared, second by Tom. Any further questions, comments, or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again for all your work. Thank you. And I do, but we have to update these. Okay. So.
This is actually,
So we'll make those changes tomorrow then, before I sign them? Okay. And then our next item is going to be heading into closed session.
Make a motion to go into closed session.
I'll second it.
Motion by Jared, second by Tracy, to go into closed session to discuss the employment agreement for the city administrator position. All in favor?
Aye.
We need to do a roll call vote.
Thank you. Oh, roll
We
call
need to do a
vote,
roll
going into
call
closed session, okay.
Darren Miller,
Here.
Tracy Snyder,
Here.
Joe Mazias.
Here.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Tom Nymus,
Yes.
Steve Anderson,
Yes.
John Hopkins, Jared Tremble.
Yes.
We are going into closed session at 6:41.
Well,
Almost.
And we are including Sean Murphy in this discussion. I need Patrick Dolan. This is a closed session council. We need you to leave, please. Nope. And let me close this, I suppose.
yeah, I'm gonna run again. I'm dying over here.